Moving on, we're going to learn about the direct selection tool, which is the second one, the white one, and the shortcut is letter A. So as you draw in Illustrator, your vector paths are made up of anchor points and paths. The anchor points are used to control the shape of the path, and they kind of work like pins holding a wire in place, or a dot to dot. Those are the corners holding your lines together. As you A shape that you create, like a simple square, for example, is made up of 4 anchor points, the 4 corners, and then a wire between them, or a line, or however you want to look at that. So one way to change the shape of a path or a shape is by dragging these anchor points. First thing we want to do is select Artboard 2 and make sure we can see it all, which in our case, if we reverted, is accurate. We're on Artboard 2 and we can see the whole thing. With our direct selection tool, we're going to click inside one of these bamboo pieces over here. So there's a bunch of them. I'm just going to choose this top one. And I'm going to zoom in so it's a little bit easier for you to see this demonstration. So I have selected with my direct selection tool this piece. And notice how we have anchor points, these blue squares, and when we hover over them it says anchor. So it's like I have a nail here, 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 and here, and also right here in the middle, and I've stretched a wire between them. That's what gives it this bend to go from here to here. We're going to learn about these dots in a minute, so just hold off on that. But the anchor itself is what we're looking at. If it's small and it's hard to see, there's a way to change this in your preferences, and I'm going to recommend that we all do this. So on a Mac, you go Illustrator, Preferences. On a PC, you're going to do File, Preferences. Either way, the shortcut is Command K. So get into your preferences. Again, on a PC, it's File, Preferences, and go into your General Preferences. And here's where we have all of these helpful options on how Illustrator behaves. So what we want to do is go to Anchor Display, the second one down. And the size of them right now is set at the default, but we can make them bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is kind of going to help you see them a lot better. So I'm going to make them the maximum size right now, and we'll leave the hand style as it is. And we're going to say, okay. Now do you see how these blue squares are a lot bigger? I think it makes it much easier to see. And I'm zoomed in quite a bit. I'm at 300%. So if you're still looking at that full page view, those blue anchor points are probably pretty small. So that's something that you can do in preferences, and I would recommend doing at least until we get really comfortable with Illustrator. So with our direct selection tool, we can now pick one of these. Right now, all 6 of these anchor points are selected, but let's just go to the top right and click on that one. Notice when we do that, it realizes that we only want this one. It's the only one that's blue. The rest of them have turned to white. That means it's now selected and we can do something with it as we want to. If we bring our cursor back over here, we can now click and drag this. We can manipulate this. And notice again, I think the idea of nails with wire between them makes it pretty easy to understand. You're wrapping, the yarn or the wire around this anchor post, and then it's bending down around this one and coming down here and doing a left-hand turn, etc. So you can move these anchor points. If you want to select a different one, you click on it, and that selects this anchor point, not the one we were just working on, and you can now manipulate this one as well. This goes for all of them. Click the anchor, drag them somewhere, push it back in, click this one, push it back in, whatever. What we did here, we're going to undo multiple steps, so Command Z several times in a row, or just do the file revert again, and that's going to take us back to that original point and say yes, and there we are. It's back to being how it was. So the direct selection tool allows you to select individual anchors, or actually we'll learn you can select multiple anchors and pull them around as a unit, whereas the selection tool selects the whole object. Okay, not anchor points, doesn't change it. Right. Okay, as I showed you previously with the selection tool, the black arrow, we can marquee select. And I showed you how you just need to grab a little bit of the piece and it knows that you want the whole entire thing. That behaves differently with our direct selection tool. So go ahead and choose the direct selection tool. Letter A is the shortcut to get to that. And now do a click and drag a marquee over just the top part of both of these circles. And what that does, because you're using the direct selection tool, it knows that you only want anchor points and you only really have these top two in your marquee. Had I done a marquee that went down further on the circle, it probably would have grabbed these 3 anchor points instead. If we wanted to grab all 4, I'll show you. So I do a marquee that's a little bit deeper and it got these 3 anchor points. This white one is still not selected. If I did a marquee that encompassed the entire circle, it picks all 4. So drag a marquee over just the tops so that this top anchor point is selected. All right, where the anchor points are selected, you're going to see these handles sticking out to the right and the left. These are called direction handles, and they're what we use to change the curve. Because this is completely level, I'm just going to show you, don't do this, but I'm just going to show you, if I were to pull on this, I'm changing the curve by going up and down and by dragging it out further or not. So I'm going to undo, Command Z, and I'm going to marquee these top 2 again. When you're using the direct selection tool and you've marqueed 2 spots, they work in tandem. So if I hover over the anchor and click to drag it up, it actually knows that I want to do the exact same thing to the second circle that I have selected. So it's a quick way of making the exact same change to the 2 shapes. So go ahead and do that. Marquee select just these top points with your direct selection tool and then pull up around whatever, change the shape and note that both of them changed perfectly together. And then do a Command Z to undo it. If you've botched it up at all, you can always do the File Revert, but my one Command Z or undo successfully got me back. So just test that out as well, and that's the direct selection tool.